Welcome to BuzzLocal.tv. I'm your host, Eric Jingles, and once again, we have Mayor Dawn Arnold into our studio. Good morning, Mrs. Mayor.
Good morning, Eric.
Genuflect. How are you today?
Excellent.
Good. Now, we had a lot of exciting events happening recently in Moncton, particularly with the Inspire Festival and things. What were your impressions?
Oh, well, it was an amazing weekend in Moncton, actually. I loved the disco bike ride on Friday night. There were 250 people dressed in their disco wear.
People?
Oh yeah, it was quite amazing. I didn't expect that many people, but I was a little worried about safety, but somehow when you have a mass of 250 people, vehicles stop. So, I mean, next year we may have to consider a police escort, that sort of thing. But, you know what, for me, the very best part, there were lots of kids. I mean, there were lots of ages. There were babies that were being pulled behind bikes. Bikes were all decorated. People were wearing disco wear. But for me, the best part was about a 10-year-old boy who had the old, remember the banana seat bikes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he had that and he had it all blinged out. He had lights all over it. And at one point I looked around and I saw him, and we're riding down the middle of, one lane of St. George, and he's got his lights flashing and he's like, "It's dark and I'm riding down the middle of the road." So he was so excited about that. So what we would do is we would bike to different murals and we would stop en masse, and there was a DJ that was playing music all the way along, but would have sort of impromptu dance parties and admire the murals. So it was a fantastic feeling, and for a lot of people it was an opportunity to really see what the city's like after dark, and it was a really good positive atmosphere.
Yeah, I remember I grew up in Ottawa, and I grew up in Moncton, but I mean I was born in Ottawa, and they always used to have bicycle parades with the kids and deck up your bikes, all that sort of stuff, and that was always exciting. Like even now, at 3 years old doing that, I remember that.
Yeah, no, I do too.
So having that kind of event and stuff, that's exciting. Mm-hmm. So besides the Inspire Festival, we had sort of a somber but also a joyous time with the Three Fathers run, and that was a massive turnout as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was incredible to see all those bodies, and very emotional. You know, but I think part of the healing, and also I think it gives people an opportunity to also appreciate what they have too. Sometimes when you go through something like that, it's I think a great way to celebrate Father's Day. There were lots of fathers out, lots of moms out, lots of kids out. And it was a beautiful day. I don't think it could have been much nicer. And they did a great job. The organizers did an excellent job. It was really nice for the run to end at the memorial too, which was really nice. And then to look up in the sky and see the three kites flying. It was really nice. It was a great event. Really, really nicely done.
That was the first time we were down there with Buzz Local. And it was the first time that I had seen the statues in person, and wow, talk about powerful. I mean, they're incredible. The detail. I mean, the artist was just amazing. But you just felt that. I don't know. You wouldn't know the officers perhaps beforehand, but you really kind of feel like you sort of knew who they were by looking at their personalities in there and stuff. And it was a gorgeous day, and it's a beautiful walkway in between the statue and the memorial garden. I hadn't seen that before either. I was like, wow. So
the landscaping is extremely well done,
yes.
And just the whole concept of it, I think it blends in nicely, but it also brings people to our riverfront. I mean, we've talked about this before, how we've turned our back or had turned our back on a river. This is another way to sort of embrace our river. And I know that as we were walking along on Sunday, so many people were saying, "Oh my goodness, these trails are so beautiful." We have, you're running among the grass down there. You're in the downtown of a city, and you have all of this around you. So that was pretty fantastic.
So what, now on to other things with council. What's happening with council?
Oh, well, last night was a big council meeting. Lots of exciting things. I always sort of judge what's going on in the city by our consent agenda. So that's one of the very first things that happens when the meeting starts. And it's something that it is sort of a rubber stamp thing, but it's more roads that have been asked to be closed for different events, and there were quite a number of those. So that's always a good indication that there's lots of good things happening in the city. The Legs for Literacy run is coming up, the Remembrance Day parade, all these sorts of things. coming up into the next season. And then we moved on to, different planning matters. So we have some really exciting possibilities coming in our city. We have we had rezoning request on University for an infusion clinic right across from the Dumont. We had a request for, it was a public hearing, public presentation. So it was to give us all of the public, the opportunity to know about the possibility of a rezoning at 777 Mapleton. So if you think of Mapleton in the Trans-Canada, you know where Cabela's is?
Oh, yes.
Sort of diagonally across from that.
Oh, okay.
Possibility of building a Holiday Inn Express and a couple of restaurants out there. So,
wow.
Yeah, that could be very exciting. But last night was just to tell the public that this is being considered. So we will give that 30 days so the public will have the opportunity to meet with staff, find out more details, and then if, are not in agreement, we'll have the opportunity to voice their concerns at the public hearing on July 20th. So that is coming up.
Okay. Yeah, about the hotels, I don't think we mentioned it last time, but somebody had mentioned it recently that there's something like a 80% occupancy rate, or something that's abnormally high, even for this time of year in the city of Moncton. Is that true? Is that
well, it is. I think some of that might have. The Canadian dollar is helping us for sure,
right.
But also the fact that Crystal Palace closed has sort of, that I think the industry is sort of adjusting to that as well. But those were numbers that Mr. Cunningham he's a tourism expert. He had presented to council at our last council meeting, actually, on that topic. So. Okay.
Are there any contentious issues on the plate, or?
Well, everything can be contentious because when you're trying to move a city forward, not everyone's going to be happy with decisions that are made. We had a couple other requests for rezonings concerning our industrial parks. So there's one that was on Debrise right near here, and another one which is over off Elmwood. So there's a lot of development happening off Elmwood, just south of the Trans-Canada.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know where the new Sobeys is there.
Yes.
Yeah, that street's called Fille de Jesus. And if you keep going straight through there, you would have to go over some railroad tracks. And there's a tract of land there that was not part of the serviceable boundary because it was just too difficult because it's basically got Trans-Canada and a spur line from CN and another railroad track. So it was beyond the serviceable boundary because we knew it would cost too much money to take services there. However, Moncton Industrial Development has identified it as a tract of land. They own it as a tract of land that would be really good for smaller industrial businesses, not manufacturing, but more business-to-business type businesses. So they would like to develop that land, and they will pay for the services. So
exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
How about this summer? Do you think there's lots going to be happening this summer? Lots of festivals and stuff. Is that? That obviously brings in tourism dollars. Is there momentum? Do you think with events and stuff? Because when we look at the event calendar, it seems like every week there's something.
I think there is actually, and of course this weekend we'll be able to smell it Friday at noon. The Rib Fest will be taking place along the water. That was a lot of fun with Atlanticade. So that's always a blast, and there's some really good bands coming. So I know my family and friends, they're all planning on going down Friday night and getting some ribs and then finding a place at the picnic tables and listening to some music along the riverfront. So that should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, I know you're very busy. I don't want to keep you any longer than you've already been here, but thank you so much for coming in. Always a pleasure, and we look forward to further updates.
Thank you, Eric.